Gold Rush Girl. We are on chapter 36. We hurried, but Goat Hill was a steep climb, so it was not till mid-afternoon that we reached the top. Directly across the bay was Angel Island. To the north of us was Alcatraz, or Pelican Island, the desolate place I had seen when I'd first come into the bay. 2 miles from San Francisco, it sat like a guard before the Golden Gate. As for the Golden Gate, a great gray fog bank was blocking the way, like a cotton cork stuffed in the neck of a narrow bottle. To the east was the expanse of the Great Bay. That was open. We sat down, and Thad put the telescope to his eyes. It took him a moment before he said, "The Yankee Sword is right there. See? Sails furled, anchored, just below Rotten Row. Name in yellow letters on her stern. They're loading her." Sam looked. Then he said, "Unless that fog bank holds her back, the Yankee Sword will be leaving soon. We better decide fast what we're doing." I took the telescope and studied the ship. Being a brig, the Yankee Sword was not so large, and with only 2 masts. The forward mast was taller than the main mast. Attached to the near mast was a gaff that held a square sail over the stern. At her bow was a spirit nearly the length of the deck that extended forward over the water. Since San Francisco had few loading docks extending into the bay, at least not as far out as the Yankee Sword was anchored, lighters were bringing out her cargo. As we watched, passing the telescope among us, there were decreasing numbers of lighters, suggesting that the loading was fairly almost complete. Sam looked again and said, "Not many men are on her." I took back the telescope, hoping to catch sight of Jacob, but it didn't matter that I couldn't see him. By then, I was convinced Jacob was there. We sat in silence. I didn't know what to do. It was Thad who said it. "I have an idea." "Say it." "All those lighters loading her, right?" "What about them?" asked Sam. "We could get hold of one," Thad went on. "We could go out to the Yankee Sword, climb aboard, and look around for your brother." "In daylight?" asked Sam. Thad shook his head. They're so busy getting ready to leave that they might not notice us." Sam shook his head. 3 kids wandering around a ship, poking about. They'd see us soon enough. Too risky." To which I added, "And they might catch us, keep us, even worse." Thad had no reply. After a moment, I said, "How about going to her tonight? It will be dark and the fog will be thicker." Sam said, "They're sure to have a watch posted and safety lights. If they're keeping a lookout, they'd be there in a dinky rowboat. Wouldn't matter it being dark. They'd see us for sure." "But we can't wait any longer," I said. "She's scheduled to leave tomorrow." There was some silence before Thad said, "Then I'm betting the best chance we have is now." I said, "To do what?" Thad said, "To get a closer look." "How?" "Grab a boat and go on out there." I scrambled to my feet. "Come on," I said. "We need to." It took us a while to get off the hill, but once we did, we went right into the cove, fetched up a rowboat, and pushed it into the water. I took a place at the bow with my telescope in hand. Thad was on the stern, and Sam began to row. No one spoke as we worked our way through the Rotten Row hulks. It took a while, but once we broke through into the bay, I looked to see where the Yankee Sword was, only to blink at what I was not seeing. The ship was not there. At first, I thought I wasn't looking in the right direction. I even stood up and shaded my eyes. No question, the Yankee Sword was not where we had last seen her. "She's gone!" I cried. After a moment, Thad pointed and said, "No, she's there in the deeper water." "Is she moving?" Sam used the telescope. "No," he said. Thad turned to Sam. "What is she doing?" Sam continued studying her. "Looks like she's finished loading. The sails are down and she's anchored, so she's staying away from shore, not going anywhere. Maybe waiting for the fog to clear from the gate and for the tides to run right. Anyway, she won't be leaving. Not yet. I'm guessing, said Thad, once all is good, she'll glide right on out. We watched our rowboat gently rocking. We kept watching the Yankee Sword in silence. If we go after her in this boat, said Thad, we'll be as obvious as turtles in a wash tub. And, said Sam, if they get suspicious, they might pull anchor and race off. No way we could catch her in the bay with this. He patted the gunwales of our little boat. But we can't do nothing, I cried. Though no one disagreed, no one suggested anything. Our rowboat began to drift while we continued to stare at the brig. It was Thad who said, Tori, remember when we first went looking around Rotten Row, that ketch we searched? What about her? There was a sign on her that said, help yourself. I don't know what you're saying. Remember, she looked ready to sail. We could get on her and go after the Yankee Sword in her. He turned to Sam. Could you sail a small ketch? Reckon, said Sam. I said, if the Yankee Sword moved away, could a small boat like that go after her? Long as she stayed in the bay, said Sam, but not if she gets to the ocean. Thad said, they might not notice a small boat. Then he added, much. The boys looked to me. I said, let's go and use her. We headed back to Rotten Row. As both Thad and I recall, the ketch was not deeply embedded amidst the Rotten Row fleet, but somewhere along its outer edges. Even so, it took a while before we found her. After all the big ships we had been on, she seemed smaller than I recalled, maybe 30 feet in length, with one mainsail plus the modest mizzen mast near the stern. The signs, off for riches, help yourself, were still there. When we pulled close, I noticed her name, Sadie Rose, somebody's sweetheart or wife. I think this is the cover of the ship, I'm assuming, is the scene of this night. So I think this is the Yankee Sword, and then this is them getting on the sailboat. There's Sam and Thad. I was looking to see if you could see the name on it. You couldn't, but this must be it. And then they're going to sail, because sailing is much faster than rowing if you have the right wind. Okay. It sounds like it was definitely windy. We drew along. Okay. We scrambled on board. The full rig of sails, a flying jib, a staysail, a forestaysail, a mainsail, and a mizzen, remained hanging from the mast. Lines seemed to be where they were supposed to be, all but tangled. Strewn about were the tools I'd noticed before. Sam stood and appraised her. Can you sail her? I asked. Think so. Thus it was that Sam became the captain of the Sadie Rose, or captain, as Thad called him with a sharp salute. I shall not bore you with all of Sam's ship lingo and his commands, with Sam's ship language. They didn't have the word lingo in those days, but language, lingo means, like language. So I'll start again. I shall not bore you with all of Sam's ship language, his commands, which in any case he often had to translate for my landlubber ears, as much as Senor Rollis had to translate his Spanish. Gonzales. Enough to say, Sam put Thad and me to work. As quick as possible, the deck had been cleared, the mainsail jib and the mizzen hauled. What about our rowboat? I asked. Tie her to the stern, said Sam. We might need her, just in case. Push her oars under the seat. That done, it took the three of us to work the ketch's anchor up from where it lay embedded in the bottom mud, where its twin flukes like hooks held fast. I was reminded of the Rhode Island symbol, an anchor, stay in place. Ancora, hope. Hope is what I needed. With the anchor freed and aboard, Sam turned the Sadie Rose downwind and away from Rotten Row. Out in the bay, the choppy waters caught at our low bow and sent wet and shivery cold salt spray over us. Now and again, light rain also sprinkled, but we were moving, which gave me the sense that we were really going somewhere, and that made me warm. It did require some time for Sam to gain a feel, as he put it, for the ketch, and for Thad and me to understand his orders so we could follow them. In good time, however, we were sailing out about the bay with ease, and all three of us worked like old jacks together. Our rowboat bobbed behind us. Sam maneuvered the Sadie Rose so that while we kept our distance from the Yankee Sword, we were able to keep our eyes on her. As Sam explained it, he didn't want her crew to have any suspicions as to who we were or why we were out there. Besides, Senor Rosales' telescope allowed us to be watchful while still keeping our distance. I was becoming excited, filled with the sense that we were truly drawing closer to Jacob. All the while, the Yankee Sword remained motionless, though now and again I saw people move about her deck. I need hardly say that I saw nothing of Jacob. As we tacked back and forth, we would turn toward the Golden Gate. That fog bank had only crept further into the bay. It had also become thicker and darker, like a thundercloud. Let me acknowledge, however, that though we were in the bay and keeping our eyes on the brig, we had yet to form a plan as to how to rescue Jacob. It was as if we were waiting for the Yankee Sword to tell us what to do. It was when we darted in close and Thad was studying her with his telescope that he called, "Come about!" Sam shifted the tiller hard. "What is that?" I asked. Someone was standing at her bow. I could have sworn it was looking at us. "What's he look like?" Thad looked. "White hair." I said, "Captain Littlefield." "He'll know about us then," said Sam, and he continued to tack away from the Yankee Sword. "Do we have to worry?" I asked. "We're too far away," said Thad. "I'm not sure," said Sam. By late afternoon, with sunlight fast diminishing, the Yankee Sword had hung lights in the fore and aft. Another light dangled in the mid. "What do those lights mean?" I asked Sam. "Safety lights. Tells me she's not going anywhere. Not tonight. Probably hoping that fog in the gate lifts so they can leave early in the morning." We continued to sail back and forth, in no particular direction, but always keeping the Yankee Sword in view. Twilight brought deeper murk, and what's more, the shadowy fog in the gate was flowing into the bay, spreading like a balloon, slowly swelling bigger. Sam said, "It's going to get too dark for us out here. If we keep sailing about, someone on that ship is bound to get suspicious." "But we have to keep watching her," I said. For a moment, no one spoke. Thad said, "What about Alcatraz? That island sits before the gate. If we could get on that, we could keep an eye on the ship. We have the telescope." Will they notice us?" I asked Sam. "Not likely," Thad added. "And if she tries to run for the gate, she'll have to pass right by us." I said, "But if she did run by, still don't know how we'll get Jacob." Thad said, "We'll think of something." "Is anybody on the island?" I asked. "Just rocks and birds," said Sam. "Won't be pleasant there. Still, better than sailing about. If we sit high up, we will be able to see the Yankee Sword a whole lot better than from here." I said, "Then we should do it." I looked at Thad. I turned to Sam. He responded by blowing out his cheeks, as if blowing his bugle, and letting a puff of air out, and then he shifted the tiller. That was all he needed to do, by way of saying yes. The boom swung about, the ketch heeled, and as the twilight dimmed and the fog grew murkier, the Sadie Rose headed for the Isle of Alcatraz. So, there's a lot of language of sailboats in there. If you've ever sailed before, I sailed a lot, so I know what some of it means, but it's not that important. The next chapter is pretty short, so I'll read one more. Chapter 37, The Island of Alcatraz. The island of Alcatraz may have appeared small from the summit of Goat Hill, but it grew larger and more inhospitable the nearer we came. In the increasing dark, it appeared as little more than a mass of gray-blue rocks, all different sizes and sharp shapes. The island made me think of a gigantic barnacle-encrusted whale laying dead upon the water. Since our boat had a keel and the island shore being nothing but low, jagged cliffs with strong currents swirling about, Sam had worked hard to get the Sadie Rose close in. When he did, masses of birds, mostly pelicans and gulls, burst up, crowding the air with their flapping wings. Flying low, they screeched and dove at us, swooping so close we often had to stoop down. It was as if they were telling us that they alone had exclusive claim to this pile of jagged stone. As we drew close, our keel scraped the bottom. "Can't get nearer," said Sam. "The rowboat," said Thad. Sam said to me, "Toss our anchor." I scrambled forward and heaved the heavy hook, which splashed down. "Give it a yank," said Sam. "Make sure it's set." "Holding," I called. Thad then dropped the sails. Sam pulled the rowboat close. Thad grabbed the telescope. "We'll need this." In mindless readiness, I checked my money belt and my knife. One by one, we climbed off of the sailboat and into the rowboat and pushed away from the Sadie Rose. Having taken the center seat, I took up the oars and rowed us as near to the island as possible. Waves pushed us closer until Thad, impatient, leaped for shore. He landed on a jutting rock, almost lost his balance, and saved himself by wild wing-like waving of his long arms, as if trying to outflap the birds. But it worked. He kept himself from falling and was safe. Then he waded back into the water and grabbed the rowboat line and pulled us in. I climbed out. Sam's telescope in hand came from the stern, and we hauled the boat up onto the shore so the currents wouldn't bash her in the rocks. That done, Sam found a stone around which to wrap her line. United, we climbed higher onto the empty island so as to get a better view of the Yankee Sword. When we found a flat place, we sat side by side, gazing into the bay like the trio of Robinson Crusoes. It was now evening. A damp murkiness clung close, a blanket of dense and soggy air whose thickness made it difficult to distinguish water from air. There were no stars, only a high and fuzzy full moon that seemed to smolder in the sky, its edgeless halo casting a little light. The 3 lamps on the Yankee Sword remained in dull sight, an earthbound constellation, so we knew she was there, not going anywhere. As we sat there, no one talking, I listened to the bay water lip-lap against the island rocks. Here and there, the ripping water shimmered. The island birds, for the most part, had become noiseless, though now and again I heard a faint twittering and a sudden squawk of a seagull or a barking pelican. Plus, I heard my own anxious breath. "Wish I had my bugle," said Sam. "I'd bet you'd play I Often Think of Writing Home." "Probably would." I wondered, where was my home? Was it back in Providence? Or had San Francisco become my home? I asked, "Do you miss your home a lot?" Sam said, "I do. Keep hoping Oates got there. Saving your brother will give me some faith." I said, "Oh, Sam, I want your brother safe too." "Appreciate that." I was thinking about Sam's brother when, to the left of us, a ship emerged out of the fog, moving slowly eastward into the bay. Though I was not given to believing in worlds that go beyond God's creation, the ship appeared ghost-like, slow and silent in the murky light. Her unexpected appearance, festooned by the veils of mist, as much as the sail, suggested that she had sailed in from another world, shaped and propelled by the air itself. Seeing her gave me an awful thought that she was a spirit ship and she was coming to take Jacob away. I hastened to scold myself, knowing that of course the ship was real and must have come through the Golden Gate from the ocean. She was moving fast, her silhouette suggesting that she was a clipper ship coming into San Francisco. Maybe, I preferred to think, maybe Mother was on her. Maybe Oates was too. Observing the ship, Sam said, "Somebody took a chance." It was hard to say if he was admiring it or criticizing it. "If someone's coming in, someone could go out," I said. "Is the Yankee Sword moving?" Thad put the telescope to his eye. After some fretful waiting on my part, he said, "Not an inch." "Not an inch," Sam said. "I promise a ship like that won't work against the fog. Not tonight." Thad handed me the telescope. I took it and aimed for the points of light. After a while, I could see the ship's profile. Then as I looked, I saw a few lights moving on what I thought would be the main deck. Something's happening on her, I said, passing the telescope back to Sam. He studied her. They're lowering jolly boats with men in them. Alarmed, I said, do you think they're coming after us? I even put my hand to my money belt. Sam said, my guess is since the ship isn't going anywhere, they're allowing the crew to go ashore for a last night. That's good. That means they won't come back until morning. Thad took the telescope and looked. After a while, he said, that's what they're doing. It was left for me to say, then there will be less of a crew on her? Sam said, right. Not many going to give up a last night on shore. They'll only have a few left to watch. How many is They'll only have left a short watch. How many is short? One, maybe two, I said. Doesn't that make it easiest for us to get on her? Could be, said Sam, unless it's a trick. What kind of a trick? Pretending not to have a lot of men on board. We have to keep studying her. We need to be patient. We continued sitting, waiting, and watching. I did not say anything, nor did the boys. I suspect we all knew what was going to happen at some point. We were going to board the Yankee Sword.